Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're uncovering the century-old rivalry that quietly built the modern luxury car. You know, when we see these absolutely stunning, pristine vehicles sitting gracefully in showrooms or just humming down the highway, it's so easy to forget how they actually got there. But I promise you, the story behind these beautiful machines is packed with bitter feuds, corporate espionage, stolen secrets, and a relentless, sometimes brutal pursuit of perfection that literally shaped the vehicles we drive today.
Okay, let's jump right in with this cheekily iconic birthday taunt. Back in 2016, BMW was throwing this massive celebration for its 100th anniversary, while Mercedes-Benz, never one to miss a prime opportunity for some corporate pettiness, sent out a very public message, and it perfectly sets the stage for our tale of two titans. They playfully reminded BMW that Carl Benz actually invented the automobile back in 1886. I mean, imagine the sheer arrogance, crashing your biggest rival's centennial party just to loudly remind them that the previous 30 years were incredibly boring without them.
And that brings us to the core question we're tackling today. Think about the historical power dynamic here for a second. Mercedes was already the established, undisputed king of the road. They were building these massive, luxurious land yachts for heads of state and royalty. They commanded absolute respect. BMW? They had a totally different origin. They started out making aircraft engines, pivoted to motorcycles, and eventually in the post-war era were building these tiny, quirky little Isetta bubble cars. It was literally like watching a scrappy kid with a bicycle challenge a wealthy aristocrat in a luxury mansion. So how on earth did this plucky upstart force a global powerhouse into a relentless, century-long battle for automotive supremacy?
To figure that out, we're diving into Section 1, the oldest automotive rivalry. Because to truly grasp the modern clash, we first have to look at the vastly different DNA that birthed these two legends.
They absolutely did not start with the same goal in mind, and this brilliantly illustrates their contrasting philosophies. BMW realized pretty early on that they simply couldn't beat Mercedes at the traditional luxury game. So they asked a completely different question. What if driving just feels incredibly fun? They chased sheer driving pleasure, treating the driver as an active, vital participant. They obsessed over perfect 50-50 weight distribution, which essentially means the car feels perfectly balanced right at your hips, so when you turn the wheel, the car eagerly listens. Mercedes, on the other hand, lives by the best or nothing. Their goal is the executive chariot, a serene sanctuary of plush refinement and meditative tranquility. That is exactly why a BMW feels jumpy, athletic, and alive, while a Mercedes feels like you're effortlessly gliding on a cloud.
And looking back at their shared history, it reveals this fascinating, rapid-fire game of one-upmanship. It is just a constant, aggressive push and pull. Mercedes drops the breathtaking 300 SL Gullwing in 1954, stunning the world. BMW can't let that stand, right? So they bring out a futuristic electric concept for the 1972 Olympics to show they own the future. Mercedes counters by literally inventing the anti-lock braking system in 1978, changing automotive safety forever. Every single release was a direct punch thrown at the other, forcing both brands to innovate or perish.
Which brings us to Section 2, performance versus luxury. Because guys, this rivalry wasn't always a balanced fight of engineering marvels. In fact, it almost ended before it truly began.
Picture this, it's 1959. BMW is struggling massively. The post-war economy had hit them hard, they were on the verge of bankruptcy, and Mercedes-Benz was quite literally at the gates. The executives at Mercedes were ready to buy them out, scrap the entire brand, and turn BMW into a mere manufacturing plant for Mercedes parts. Imagine that for a second. No more BMW cars, the badge just completely erased from history forever. But an investor named Herbert Quandt stepped in and risked everything he owned to save the company. Against all odds, his stubborn refusal to sell saved BMW. And instead of just surviving, BMW used that near-death experience as fuel, doubling down on their identity to make cars that felt deeply alive.
So the crucial point here is that this wasn't just some friendly, gentlemanly competition anymore. It quickly escalated into actual ridiculous corporate espionage. Mercedes saw this reborn BMW growing fast and desperately wanted to know how they were building cars with such high quality. So what did this incredibly wealthy, prestigious luxury titan do? They sent a spy to infiltrate BMW. And this spy wasn't hacking mainframes. He was literally dumpster diving. He was stealing engineers' discarded papers from trash bins to tape their secrets back together. I mean, you can't make this up. But BMW caught on, and in a brilliantly petty countersting, they started feeding the spy fake documents. They eventually caught Mercedes completely red-handed. It was a spectacular embarrassment for the luxury kings.
Let's move into Section 3, Secret Wars and Track Battles.
By the 1980s, these boardroom brawls translated into legendary fights right on the asphalt of the DTM racing circuits.
This is where absolute automotive legends were born. Mercedes decides they want to dominate motorsport, so they build the 19E. It's an elegant luxury sedan that they heavily adapted to win on the track, famously putting young Formula One hotshots like Ayrton Senna behind the wheel. While BMW was absolutely furious that Mercedes dared to step onto their athletic turf, so they retaliated with pure aggression by building the iconic E30 M3. But they took the exact opposite approach. The M3 was a lightweight, boxy, high-revving racing machine that absolutely screamed around the track, which they then adapted for the road just to meet racing regulations. The elegant cruiser versus the screaming track beast. This fierce clash gave us some of the greatest high-performance sedans in history. But here's the coolest part. While they were fiercely fighting over lap times and horsepower, they were also racing to protect the people sitting inside these machines. One brilliant engineer at Mercedes started thinking differently about what actually happens to the human body during a crash. This led to the invention of crumple zones. Simply put, the front and back of the car are designed to completely crush like an accordion, absorbing the violent energy of a crash, while keeping the passenger cabin incredibly strong and intact. BMW saw how effective this was and quickly swallowed their pride to adopt it. It's just amazing to think that this bitter, relentless feud accidentally birthed the life-saving structural innovations that every single one of us relies on today.
And if you thought the espionage was crazy, the behind-the-scenes drama gets even wilder. Both companies secretly developed highly futuristic brake-by-wire technology, where a computer controls your braking instead of a mechanical link. But get this, they both quietly buried it at the exact same time because they were terrified of hackers remotely taking over the cars. Oh, and here is the most shocking twist of all in this decades-long war. The Quant family, the exact same people who risked it all to save BMW from Mercedes in 1959, yeah, they actually owned massive shares in Mercedes-Benz too. Can you imagine? The family that saved BMW was secretly profiting off Mercedes at the exact same time. It was literally like owning two rival sports teams and just casually watching them beat each other up from the owner's box.
All right, moving on to Section 4, the modern electric battlefield. Fast forward to today, heading into 2026, and the battleground has shifted from gasoline and horsepower to electrons, aerodynamics, and digital immersion.
Let's break this down like a heavyweight boxing match, tail of the tape, comparing their newest flagships, the BMW iX3 Neue Klasse versus the Mercedes GLC Electric. Both are now built on dedicated electric vehicle platforms, no more shared gas car chassis. The BMW iX3 is aggressively chasing total efficiency with new cylindrical battery cells and an 800-volt architecture. In plain English, that high voltage allows for ultra-fast charging, a blistering peak of 400 kilowatts, getting you back on the road in minutes. The GLC, meanwhile, favors proven, highly reliable NMC battery chemistry. It maxes out at a lower 320 kilowatts for charging, but it focuses much less on bleeding-edge specs and far more on maintaining that incredibly smooth, timeless Mercedes refinement.
Step inside the cabin, and you can practically feel that historical DNA we talked about earlier. BMW offers the panoramic vision head-up display, projecting vital info across the entire lower windshield. It creates this digital canvas that makes you feel like a hyper-focused fighter pilot in a modernist cockpit. Mercedes completely contrasts this approach with their massive 39.1-inch MBUX hyperscreen and a sky control roof featuring 162 beautifully illuminated stars. BMW wants to give you an engaging, driver-focused experience that keeps you connected to the road. Mercedes? They want to wrap you in a shimmering, distraction-free spa that makes you forget you're even sitting in a car.
So, you might be wondering, does this intense, century-long war of philosophies actually pay off in the real world? Absolutely. Over the last couple of decades, this relentless need to out-innovate one another has translated directly into massive global sales growth. As time goes on, both of these titans are seeing incredible, sustained upward trends. They aren't just endlessly trading the exact same buyers back and forth. This intense competition is actively growing their entire market globally.
And the broader impact is truly fascinating. By constantly trying to outdo each other with better tech, sharper designs, and advanced safety features, BMW and Mercedes actually began stealing significant market share away from standard, everyday, mass-market vehicles. Their feud literally elevated the public's expectation of what a car should be, making premium luxury vehicles more appealing and accessible to a wider audience than ever before. Which brings us to our final takeaway. Section 5. Choosing your driving soul. After all this history, what does it mean for you? We've seen a century of stolen secrets pulled from trash bins, legendary track battles driven by racing icons, and an electric evolution that is redefining transportation. Every single time you drive, every time a modern safety feature protects you, you are experiencing the undeniable result of this silent war. So, I'll leave you with this. After 100 years of secret warfare, which side of this electric battlefield do you belong on? Does the dynamic, sheer driving emotion of BMW speak to your soul? Or are you drawn to the refined, graceful tranquility of Mercedes-Benz? Think about it the next time you see one of these legends hum quietly down the street. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.